All right, welcome. I wanted to address this point real quick that Stephan Moore made the other night on the Colbert Report.
And the New Deal was a disaster.
Thank you. Exactly.
It was a disaster. All it did was build roads, establish national parks, and create power-generating dams. We don't need any of those things.
And we don't.
Please let him speak before you cheer for him.
Right. We don't need 25% unemployment rate.
This guy is so retarded, and this is why actually I'm doing this video, and I'll get in front of the camera here in a second, but Stephen just completely, Colbert just destroyed his entire point. And he's like, yeah.
We don't need a 14-year depression. That's what Franklin Roosevelt gave us. It was World War II that got us out of the Great Depression, not the New Deal.
Okay. That's what I'm going to talk about. Point real quick that Stephan Moore made the other night on the Colbert Report, and I looked this up, and I've been doing some research on this for a little while because the notion that World War II ended the Depression is so simplistic that it's completely wrong. If you got to look at the history and the context of it a little bit, and if you'll relax with me, let's paint the world as it was when we joined World War II, which was in 1942. World War II had started in 1939. So there's about 3 years there where what's going on? The rest of the world is fighting. We're not. We're continuing to produce and trying to pull ourselves out of a depression. Still not working. The world is fighting. Now, what we did when we joined World War II was start spending like mad. And we did it by borrowing like crazy. If you look at, and I'll go ahead and pop it up later, oh, here it is. The gross domestic product, or excuse me, the national debt as a percentage of gross domestic product, which is, I think, the more interesting way to look at the situation because it kind of keeps things, in a ratio that I think is more likely. You see the huge spike in 1942 when we start to pay to get ramped up for this war and start to build. Now, we go through the war and really basically doubled down, put everything into it, everybody fought together, and we won. So we had gone from having the Depression directly to the war. So you can't say the war really saved the Depression because during the war people had even less than they had during the Depression, but we had a war to fight and we were just borrowing money everywhere we could to pay for it. So we did build and built up the industrial base to build all this war machine. And then the war ended, and now we're in 1945. And this is where you get into like the Bretton Woods in 1944 when all the world came to the U.S. to decide how the financial situation was going to work. Now, the U.S. was in a tremendously advantageous position. Most of Europe was destroyed. This was World War II. Most of Russia was destroyed. Japan was nuked. These are the industrial powers of the world, and they were destroyed. If we look now at our biggest competitors, they're the same people who fought this war. When the war was over, they were destroyed. We weren't. So we had a huge contextual situational advantage. So to say that it was war that pulled us out of the Great Depression is kind of overlaying the fact that it only worked because everybody else got destroyed, and we didn't. Which, of course, is what Stephen says, immediately.
New Deal.
That's why I'm pushing for World War III, okay? That's the simplest thing. We create a mass...
And if you think like that, if you believe that World War II ended the Great Depression and people are going to be looking for solutions now for our current troubles, and I don't know if we're going to head to a depression and get that bad, but I don't think it's going to get that bad because, well, a lot of reasons. One of them is the fact that I'm able to talk to you like this with this technology and this efficiency. I think is going to actually be pretty amazing as people have to start to scrimp and realize that there are certain ways that we can still communicate, advanced ways, and we'll cut up that, right? So that's what we have to avoid is people thinking that that's the solution to these current troubles that we have. A lot of our problem now, at least in the U.S., is created because of our war. War isn't an answer to pull yourself out of a depression. It happened in World War II because of the situation that was much larger. It's not as more, that Stephen says so wrongly, that it's somehow this is good. And also his whining about the tax, all these taxes are going to go up. Hell, even the cover of his book what was it? What do we got here?
Massive
Russia, not unemployment
The end
rates.
of
We don't need-
prosperity. If you go watch my other video on the economic class, and you know the other guy who co-authored this book with him is the guy Laffer, right? Who's what they simplified his concept down to the point of you can always cut taxes and it'll always pay for itself. And I went 10 minutes into this the other day and it just didn't work. What happened recently is why this stuff finally crushed is we've been borrowing money everywhere to pay for our war. In this war, you can see how war actually destroys value. Now, this is the example I would normally think. If you take like $1 million and spend it to build a road, right? That money goes through, the normal economic situation. You got workers paid out, goes into the economy and kind of rolls around like it normally does. Wages and all that are all part of it. And at the end of it, you have a road that's useful. If you spend $1 million to make a missile, you have all that same stuff that happens, and you have actually some really highly trained people and highly educated people doing very innovative work to create that object that's $1 million, but then at the end of the day, you use it and you burned it. You blew it up, literally. You're blowing up money during war. It's not very efficient. It's only useful when there's a major goal to have at the end of it. Either you're defending your own life or trying to take over something immediately, not just trying to jumpstart your economy. It's not a solution for that, which I'm really afraid some people think because they believe that World War II pulled us out of the Depression, which is not true, which is why I wanted to make this video, because this has been banging around in my head for the last few days. I actually ranted at somebody last night who was kind enough to listen, but that's the point. That's the only point I'm making in this video. This guy is a jackass, but he gets paid a lot of money to be one, so, I mean, what can I say? I don't get paid shit. And, oh, there you go. The taxes are only going up on douchebags like that, and Colbert. Some of them complain about it, some of them don't. It's actually the douchebags that are complaining. But, alright. I think I'm done now. We have to pay for stuff, and to pay for stuff you have to tax things, and when he's saying he's gonna literally say...
Right. You have a book here called The End of Prosperity. How higher taxes will doom the economy if we let it happen. Can we stop the Obama juggernaut? Because he's going to tax all of us.
He's going to tax the hell out of us.
He's going to tax.
See, this is where Stephen is great, Colbert, because he starts out with a lie. That he's going to tax all of us.
There's going to be no middle class tax.
You can't afford it.
This is exactly what he talks about.
He's going to tax corporations. He's going to tax the job creators.
Well, we shouldn't tax anyone. Then we won't have to pay for anything, and then we'll just run a huge debt, and we can do that forever, right? And we never have to pay it back. That's awesome. My God, these people run shit. All right, that's enough. I don't know what to say, man. World War II did not end the Depression. It only will, and World War III will only end this Depression if we kill everyone else, and we don't want to do that. I hope. Not that greedy, are we?